Pierre, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, you're the first one in. Let's go. Scott, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening, how you been? How's everyone doing today? Good, bad, or just depending on where you are starting out. T, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hello, Miles and family. Happy Pisces, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? I'm second again tonight. Jeez. Let's go, Scott. How you doing? Don't worry about it. As long as you're in. Okay, let's do a gist of what we're going to go through. There's actually a bit to go through on tonight's live show. There's a lot of geopolitical tensions happening around the world, and each geopolitical tension is going to have a different impact on the market space. Good, Miles. Thanks for asking. Let's go, Scott. So on tonight's episode of the CMF Live, we are going to be talking about hot statements from the Fed members. Fed member Walker, he talked about the interest rate cuts and what could possibly headed towards the United States and how that can impact the entire crypto market space and the stock market space. We're also next going to be talking about Grayscale updating their list of crypto assets. They're actually adding, there's about 35 altcoins now on Grayscale's list, which is quite tremendous. Then we're going to be talking about Tether on tonight's live show. Tether is going to start lending commodity traders and essentially seeking in quite a lot of, you could say, profits. Tether actually wants to go head-on-head with banks in terms of lending and borrowing services. So let's see how that will essentially work out for the crypto space and for the banking space. Then we're going to be talking about the UAE. The UAE central bank has just approved their first regulated dirham stablecoins. So the central bank of the United Arab Emirates has given a green light to a stablecoin to be created. Now there are 3 or 4 contenders that could possibly be building the United Arab Emirates stablecoin. One of them is Ripple. The other one is USDC, so Circle in other words. The other one is Tether, so USDT in other words, and a few other ones. Then we're going to be going through the topic on tonight's live show regarding Mt. Gox. Now, Mt. Gox has been a news that's keep on coming back inside the crypto space because Mt. Gox has not refunded a lot of people. Actually, the majority of refunds still haven't been processed. And their refunds are going to be impacting the crypto space because they're going to be refunding everybody with Bitcoins that people brought, you could say 7 years ago, 6 years ago, even 8 years ago, which means when they do start refunding, a lot of people are going to sell. Well, it turns out Mt. Gox is not going to be refunding people this year. They're going to be refunding people next year instead. We're also going to go through a news topic on tonight's live show regarding the UK. It seems like we have a deadline finally for the United Kingdom on when is the British CBDC coming out. And guess when it is? Once we get to that news, I'll reveal what year it's coming out in. Then we're going to be talking about Xi Jinping and Putin on tonight's live regarding, is it the right plan for Russia and China to do a de-dollarization? So we're going to go through that on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding Bitwise. Bitwise's CEO, essentially, Hunter, has came out and explained why banks are embracing crypto and why everybody inside the crypto section, the retail section, should also be embracing the banks coming inside. We're also going to go through on tonight's live show regarding Brazil's central bank unlocking the new CBDC pilot phase for 2 new participants. We're also going to talk about on tonight's live show regarding the maximum tensions that are happening right now between China and Taiwan. Now, we do have a war going on between Iran and Israel, and then essentially Israel and Lebanon, and so on and so on. We also have another geopolitical tension rising out of the Asian space regarding China and Taiwan. We also have another one brewing as well with North Korea and South Korea. So we're going to go through those on tonight's live show as well, and how those can impact the crypto space and the stock market space in general. Then we're going to be talking about France on tonight's live regarding France's bankruptcy issues. It seems like France's bankruptcy is imminent, which is not good for the French market space, which is not good for the market space in general. Then we're going to be talking about on tonight's live show regarding Ripple-backed KeyRock, which is now teaming up with Deutsche Bank and Austrian Bank to expand their FX services. So a Ripple-backed company is now partnered with an Australian bank. Now, the interesting part is that that particular Austrian bank, the Deutsche Bank, is also a partner of Bitpanda, who's also another Ripple-backed partner as well. These are all coordinated movements. There's no coincidence whatsoever when it comes to essentially to the financial space in general, to the corporate space. So, mixture of news to go from tonight's live show regarding CBDCs, regarding Fed talks, regarding geopolitical tensions, and how they can possibly impact the market space. Before we go through any of those topics, I just want to say to everyone, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, my name is Miles. I'm going to be your host, as always, every single night. I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world transforming into a digital era. On this live show, we also do Q&As as well, which means if you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Also, CMF members could also answer your questions inside the comment section also. And the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And sometimes we also do quizzes as well to get everybody involved. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this as a regular, thank you so much to everyone from the CMF that tunes in every single night. Love you all. And let's go. The live show has officially started now. Now, before we go through the first topic, which is regarding the Fed talks, let's go inside the comment section first. And thank you so much to everyone right now who is essentially retweeted and liked the X post of this live as well, because I'm getting notifications from X for everyone that's been retweeting this live right now and liking this live as well. I'm putting comments, so JP, I saw your comment as well. Thanks so much to everyone that's doing that right now, and thanks so much to everyone that's watching on YouTube right now and is also liking the video and putting comments as well. Let's go. Now, before we go for the first news, which is regarding Fed talks, let's go inside the comment section first. Optimistic today. How about you? A lot of geopolitical tensions happening today, to be honest with you. Good evening, Miles and Mike. Good to see you. So how you doing? Evening. Hi, boss. Now, how is CoinMove going? Great. Come on, good to see you. So how you doing? Hyper Sniper, good to see you. So how you doing? What's up, brother? And CMF Billow, good to see you. So how you doing? Any XRP news? Yes, towards the end of the live. Dennis, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles. CMF, good to see you as well. G, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Good evening, Miles. How are you? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, brother Miles and the rest of the CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you as well. How you doing? How have you been, bro? I've been doing great. How's your meetings? Excellent. How you been, bro? How's things? How you going, funky brother? I just brought you 300 subscribers for $10. Robert, I don't know who you are, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? Robert B, where did you get those from? I have no idea who Robert B is, to be fairly honest. Morning, Miles and CMF driving today. Let's go, Shelly. How you doing? Mike, good to see you as well. Let's go. I've just retweeted and liked your live. Funky brother, thank you so much for the retweet and the like. You're amazing, awesome. You are amazing, awesome. So never let anyone tell you that you are less than that. Avery, thank you so much for the kind words. You too. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? You should say I'm the real Miles. The real Miles. How many? Okay, I mean, there's a weird one inside the comment section. Let me just get rid of them. There we go. He's got rid of them. Okay, first news on tonight's live show. The first topic we're going to go through is hot statements from Fed member Waller, talked about the interest rate cuts. So Fed Governor Christopher Waller recently addressed key economic issues such as inflation trends, the labor market, and future monetary policy adjustments we could be possibly having. Waller emphasized that the Fed's cautious stance in monitoring inflation data, stating that the recent rise resembled a roller coaster and that central banks was elevating whether the rise would continue or not regarding inflation. Christopher Waller also shared his outlooks for the labor market, predicting a slowdown in employment growth and a gradual increase in unemployment rates. However, he reassured that the unemployment rate would remain historically low levels. He described the current labor market as very healthy, with supply and demand reaching all types of levels. Despite inflationary pressures, Waller said that the consumer demand remains strong. While demand for commodities is currently essentially subdued, he sees a recovery as consumers become willing to buy as interest rates are falling. He also noted that household consumption resources are in good shape and that the economic foundation remains strong, potentially leading to a faster GDP growth in the second half of 2024. But Waller expressed disappointment with the latest inflation data, suggesting that the Fed could essentially cut interest rates if inflation falls below the Fed's 2% target, or if the labor market essentially isn't doing too well. Controversially, if inflation unexpectedly rises, the central bank could pause planned rate cuts. Looking ahead, Waller expects the Fed to adjust policies to neutral stance at a steady pace if the economy develops as forecasted. Waller has also treated essentially that the current policy rate will remain at a restrictive level, that there is a baseline exception, that the policy rate will gradually be reduced over the next year. However, he warned that the recent events such as hurricanes and Boeing strikes could reduce job growths by 100,000 in October. Waller also concluded his remarks by pointing out that the Fed's approach could be more conservative compared to the September meeting, and emphasizing that caution essentially should be exercised, reducing the interest rates. So, according to a Fed member who's came out and spoke regarding the US economy, according to him, yes, there are some slight minor issues, but in general, the US economy is on the growth side. And in his words, there's lots of jobs that people can apply to. There's no issues on the labor markets. There's no issue on inflation. We're fixing that situation. So in his eyes, the US economy is doing excellent, even though gas prices are really, really high. Electrics are really, really high. Groceries are very high. Mortgages are very high. Loans are very high. And the currency is pretty much devalued every second. Other than that, seems to be everything's in top-notch condition. I don't know who these people think they're lying to, but some people will actually read that and go, yes, it's real. There's no issues inside the United States. And I'm not just picking on the United States. Every country's economy is pretty much doing terrible. It's not just the US, but they're all lying to you. All these numbers do not add up. I'll be honest, it seems like reality doesn't make it to the papers. The reality never makes it to the papers. What does make it to the datas is fiction. Fiction will always reach the data points, but reality never does. Apparently, everything's top-notch condition. Of course it is. Now, and that's also one of the reasons why the crypto markets are slightly stifled and somehow a little bit up as well. The next news topic we're going to cover on tonight's live show is regarding Grayscale. And I said this as well, regarding the Feds, that the longer they stretch those numbers, the bigger the bubble is going to be when it does burst. And we're going to talk about France on tonight's live as well. France's economy, they've been lying about the numbers for a very long time. And it seems like France could be headed towards a bankruptcy situation because they lied about those numbers for too long. I told everybody, the longer they stretch those numbers, the bigger the bubble is going to be when it bursts. And France is heading towards that bubble right now for it to burst, which isn't going to be great for the EU economy, which isn't going to be great for the market space, which means, once again, the retail section will have to pay for the mistakes of politicians, as usual. Now, before we go into more regarding France's topics, we'll go through that more on tonight's live once we get to that news topic. But we're going to move on and talk about Grayscale on tonight's live show, because Grayscale has updated its watch list. 35 altcoins are now on its radar. We're going to go through which crypto projects are basically on Grayscale's radar, because whatever lands on Grayscale's radar is going to most likely get some sort of an ETP or ETF somewhere down the line. Now, before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section. Let's see what's going on there before we go through that. Good evening, Miles at CMF. Nice to see you back, Bull XRP. Good to see you. How you doing? Hello to my CMF on YouTube. If you enjoy the CMF show, help to share it. Let's go, Scott. Miles, as I previously mentioned, that I thought the institutions were trying to drive out the retail folks. I viewed a video today saying as much. Do you think that there is a reason for so much going on with XRP? Yes. We're getting closer and closer to CBDC releases, which was essentially we're going to get closer and closer to the XRP ledger doing incredibly well for itself, which means the XRP token will do incredibly well for itself. But we're in a very, very highly manipulative and corrupted market space with a lot of geopolitical tensions going on. So yes, it is going to be squeezing a lot of the retail section out. Some people inside the retail section, don't have patience, and some people really need their money out of the market because they want to pay for their loans or mortgages or properties or groceries. So it's very understandable. But the more pressure they put on the retail section, it's going to squeeze a lot of people out inside the retail section, because some people need their money inside the retail section, and some people are just frustrated, which you shouldn't be. I've always told people, emotions, stick them outside the market space. Don't bring emotions inside the market space because it can end bad. But yes, regarding XRP, yes, they definitely don't want you. A lot of people would say, well, it's got nothing to do with the institutions, and who's saying the institutions need you out of XRP? I'll be honest, the institutions don't even like you inside of Bitcoin, never mind XRP. They just don't like the idea of you making money, full stop. Now, Grayscale. Grayscale is essentially updating its watch list. 35 altcoins now on its radar. Grayscale, essentially one of the most influential players inside the crypto market space, has expanded its watch list to include 35 altcoins. This update reflects the firm's continued valuation of the potential assets for future investment products. Grayscale's latest altcoin watch list revealed Grayscale's released this updated list of crypto assets under consideration in its future investment products. The company updates this list within 15 days after each quarter's end as a part of its regular assessment of expanding its altcoin ecosystem. With the latest updates of 35 altcoin projects are now on Grayscale's watch list. This includes notable essentially names such as Casper. Casper with essentially the K is now on Grayscale's watch list, which is quite amazing to see what Casper was and what is essentially, getting to. Then they also have APTOS on their list as well regarding Grayscale. They have ARB on their list, Polygon on their list, Toncoin on their list, Dogecoin, and WorldCoin. Following the launch of Grayscale's Alva Trust, the price of Alva saw a recovery, climbing back to $140. Prior to its announcement, Alva has dipped $135 due to sell-offs across the broader crypto market space. The launch of the Alva Trust provided a spark for tokens recovery. In an official statement, Grayscale announced the opening of an Alva Trust, allowing investors exposures to Alva's governance essentially token in the Alva decentralized finance platforms. And the head of products and research at Grayscale commented on the development, stating Grayscale's Alva Trust provides investors with exposure to the protocol that has the potential to revolutionize traditional finance by leveraging blockchain technology and smart contracts. Avas essentially optimizes lendings and borrowings while reducing resilience on intermediaries and human decision makings. Grayscale has also certified that Alva Trust is open to accredited individuals and institutional investors. Similar to Grayscale's other Signal asset trusts, the Alva Trust allows investors to gain exposure to only the Alva token. And as one of the leading providers of the crypto investment products, Grayscale continues to pioneer in the space with over 20 funds currently under its management. Every single crypto project on Grayscale's list of altcoins has a potential to become an ETF or an ETP or a trust line, which is amazing. If somebody like Grayscale has a particular crypto project on their radar, then you can potentially see that asset will have a future. And if they launch an ETF or an ETP for that asset, then it definitely has a future in their eyes. Now, what we're going to go through on tonight's live show next, the next topic we're going to be discussing is regarding Tether. It seems like Tether wants to become a main competitor to banks. Yes, that's right. Tether wants to go head-to-head with all banks around the world. I don't know how that one's going to play out. I don't think JP Morgan is going to be too happy about that scenario. But I'm going to go through that on tonight's live. But before we go through that, let's go to the comment section first. If you have any questions, this is a live. Don't be shy. And if you are new inside the crypto space, put your comments down inside the comment section. What do you think about Larson making another donation to Kamala? It was actually the first donation. They just exaggerated on the news. Okay, regarding essentially Chris Larson making a donation to Kamala Harris. It was the same donation. It's just the news picked it up and revamped the story again. It was the exact same donation. This man did not make two donations. He made one donation. And he's playing both sides. So he's playing essentially, Ripple is playing, helping out Trump by donating to Trump. Just to point that out as well, Ripple has donated to Trump, but they've also donated to Kamala. They're just playing both sides of the political spectrum. That's it. I agree, Miles. The fewer retailers, the more institutions can make for their investors. Yes, that's correct. Tether to start lending commodity traders as it seeks to deploy profits. Tether, the issue of USDT, the world's largest stablecoin, is exploring new ways to use its profits, its massive profits. And so the company is now looking into lending to commodities traders. This could seriously shake up the sector, which typically relies on banks for credits. Tether has already essentially been having a private talks with several companies that are hungry for funding, according to insiders. The goal is to offer US dollar loans to firms moving goods like oil, metals, and food across the globe. Tether is about to get involved in some very, very. These are, the level that Tether wants to head into is the level that BlackRock's in. BlackRock essentially funding private companies that create, weapons and so on, or, essentially oil firms and so on. So Tether wants to go head to head with the highest institutions on this planet by funding companies that are inside of the oil space, the metal space, the food space, and so on and so on. Tether's big play in commodities finance. USDT has already found a place in countries like Venezuela and Russia, which are two countries that the United States do not like, and they do not like Tether is doing this. Traders and producers are there using it to avoid dealings with the US dollar due to sanctions. So Tether has decided to enter Venezuela and Russia because Russia is sanctioned. They can't use the US dollars. Well, they still do, but they can't technically. Venezuela can't use the US dollars as well. They can't do trades and so on because they're sanctioned as well. So Tether decided, well, you can't use fiat US dollars, but you can use digital. So why not use USDT? That's not going to really work out well for Tether, to be fairly honest. Tether sees an opportunity to expand this by offering loans to commodity sectors on larger scales. The company's pitch is that it can provide essentially funding without all the regulatory hurdles that traditional lenders face, which could speed up transactions and payments. What this is going to cause is Tether's downfall. It seems like Tether has decided to get greedy, which is the downfall of majority of companies. When they essentially decide to get greedy and skip steps, Tether wants to essentially skip some steps and go up to companies in countries that are having difficulties with sanctions and say, use USDT to get around everything. How well do you think that's going to work out? I think we're going to be expecting a Wells notice towards Tether very soon. The big players like Tariff Group have essentially access to billions of dollars in credit through traditional banks. At the end of March, Tariff had $77 billion in credit lines and around 150 institutions under its belt. But smaller companies don't have the same level of access. They often struggle to secure the funds needed to keep their operations running smoothly. Tether is stepping in to fill that gap. The company has been reporting some huge profits lately, which gives them the firepower to enter the space. In this most recent financial report, it showed a profit of $5.2 billion for the first half of 2024. So there's no question about it. Tether is making a lot of money, money hands over fist. But let's see when that's going to be running out when they do get a Wells notice. This money could be easily funneled into leading to commodities traders, which would give them a fresh source of capital that isn't tied to traditional banks. Private credit has already started to make a mark in the sector, and Tether wants to take that essentially further. Tether's CEO confirmed that the company is actively exploring opportunities in commodities finance. He said, "We are still in the early stages," when he told Bloomberg. As the war in Ukraine continues, the cause of major disruptions inside the commodities market trader space have seen prices swinging widely, up and down. This has created a liquidity crunch for many firms, but also led to record profits for some. That is true. In scenarios of war, there are always a group that are making a huge amount of profit in war, and then a group that is making a loss, and then there's a lot of people in between who just lose their lives. The war has also shown just how resilient the commodity sector is to the dollar. The US government has used this resilience to advantages, imposing sanctions that are targeted natural resources, exports, and undervalued. What makes Tether's pitch particularly interesting is that they don't have to play the same rules as traditional banks. Banks have to deal with tons of regulations when lending money, especially when it comes to financing trades, including raw materials. These rules are designed to protect the banks from taking too much risk, but they also slow things down. Tether, on the other hand, isn't bound by any regulations, which means they can offer faster, more flexible financing options. There's another particular rule that they missed out when they were making the announcement for Tether. Yes, it is true, banks don't take on too many risky scenarios of lending money because they can't, and if the bank collapses, then a lot of people are, damaging that scenario. But there's another particular rule that the banks have to follow, which is called AML, which is anti-money laundering. And it seems like Tether wants to skip those steps because if anybody wants to borrow money, doesn't matter if you're from a sanctioned country or not, Tether's doors are open. That could end very bad for Tether's future. Because if they're skipping steps, who knows how many steps, essentially how many steps they're skipping or how many laws they're skipping. It's all going to come crashing down on their heads if they continue with this plan forward. Now, what we're going to discuss next is the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. Central Bank has just approved their first ever regulated dirham stablecoin. There are 3 particular blockchain companies aiming to be the backbone of the dirham stablecoin of the United Arab Emirates. Before we go through that news, let's go inside the comment section first. If you have any questions, go for it. This is a live. I agree. The few retailers, facts, institutions will make the investments. Is the Ripple Swell event this week? Yes, the Ripple Swell event is coming up as well. It's an event that I've talked about a while ago that is going to be coming up. The Ripple event is going to be having one of the biggest names inside the banking sector, inside the government, inside of politicians. They're all going to be attending the Ripple event coming up. In Africa, we call Baba Miles. Let's go, Toby. USDT is digging for their own grave, pretty much. Tether is walking into a trap that they created. Facts. You might as well say good night to Tether, and that the IMF and the World Bank's CEO of Tether will share a cell with 50x Guy and Diddy. Facts. What Funky Brothers just said, absolute facts. I hope Gary Gensler joins them in prison cell. Tether is kaput. I agree, absolutely. Hi, my brother. How you doing, Golden Dragon? How you been? Now, UAE, the United Arab Emirates Central Bank, has approved their first regulated dirham stablecoin. The Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates has granted in principle approval to the AED stablecoin. This marks a significant step towards issuing the region's first fully regulated dirham-pegged stablecoin. Coming from the central bank, which is massive. This position AED stablecoin to play a crucial role in the UAE's burgeoning digital economy. The approval is a part of the CBUAE's newly established payment token service regulation framework. It also aligns with the government's vision for the future, particularly the UAE's digital government strategy 2025. However, it brings the AED stablecoin closer to realizing its vision of launching an AE coin, a dirham-pegged stablecoin currency. If fully approved, the AE coin could transform how residents and merchants engage with digital assets. It can become a local trading pair widely accepted for goods and services. It could also help users integrate crypto assets into their everyday life in the UAE. The future of crypto payments in the region looks promising, even with the essentially United Arab Emirates Central Bank caution yet progressive stance. Intriguingly, the AED stablecoin is poised to play a key role in that evolution. Now, there are a particular group of essentially blockchain companies aiming to be the backbone of the central bank's essentially stablecoin. The UAE's updated regulatory framework has introduced several challenges for the AED stablecoin and other potential issuers. The new crypto law stated that stablecoin issuers must back their own tokens with real assets. This has to either be in cash and escrow accounts within the UAE banks or maintaining 50% in cash. Now, before I read you the rest, that sentence that the United Arab Emirates Central Bank said sounds very familiar. Remember when the essentially MiCA regulations, the EU regulations for crypto assets, the EU has one particular rule for stablecoins, which is if you want to be a stablecoin and you want to operate in the EU, the only thing you have to do is, one, show transparency by providing a transparency as you do own certain assets to back your stablecoin, and that you would have to hold 60% of your assets, reserve assets, in EU banks, is what the EU said. The EU said if you want to become a stablecoin, you have to hold 60% of your assets in EU banks. And then I said that could also be applied to every other country as well. And at the time, it was only the EU. And Tether was the only one that had difficulties. Tether did not want to hold their assets, 60% of their reserve assets, in EU or in EU banks, because they said we don't trust them. But the same way can work the other way as well. There's no trust with the EU and Tether. How do we know Tether is actually backing their assets? Well, it seems like the United Arab Emirates has the same policy for their stable coins. So Tether can't operate in the EU because they don't want to hold 60% of their assets as reserves for their stablecoin in the EU, because Tether says that's absurd. Well, it seems like the United Arab Emirates wants any stablecoin issuer to also hold 50% of their assets in UAE banks. So let's see how that one's going to go down well with Tether. While the rest is invested in secure options such as UAE government bonds or CBUAE monetary bills. Additionally, the new framework bans high-risk tokens such as algorithmic stablecoins and privacy coins. Also, privacy coins are being restricted around every other country around the world. These new rules demonstrate the UAE's commitment to building a safe and secure crypto environment. Speculatively, to avoid these new rules, Ripple recently also secured an in-principle approval from the Dubai Financial Services Authority. The firm can extend its essentially innovative blockchain-based payment services to the UAE with this license. A EED, essentially token, works towards a full approval. It faces competition from global stablecoin giants like Tether and USDC Circle. In August, Tether announced plans to collaborate with UAE-based firms Phoenix Group and Green Acorn Investments to launch its own dirham-pegged stablecoin. The AUD's move signals that the race to dominate the UAE's rapidly growing stablecoin market space is heating up, despite Tether's strong position globally. This innovative development comes as stablecoins adoption and market value are gaining momentum globally. So it seems like Tether is going to be very, very soon struggling to operate in the UAE because they have to hold 50% or more of their assets in United Arab Emirates banks. Tether refused to hold 60% of their assets in EU banks because they said they don't trust the banks. So basically, one by one, each country around the world is going to have this particular law where you have to hold 50% of your assets if you're a stablecoin, or 60% of your assets, or 40% of your assets, and so on and so on. It's a safety net for that country, because if you want that particular country to use your stablecoin, then you've got to show you have reserves, because if anything ever goes south, you can back your assets. So these countries are doing this for safety. They're not doing it out of spite, because Circle, USDC, had no issues getting a green light from the EU to operate with their stablecoin. Circle said, you want transparency? No problem. We'll hold 60% of our assets with you just to show transparency in case anything ever goes south. So they're not doing it out of spite against Tether. But Tether is like, it's going to be disappearing very soon. If more countries, which they will, I said when the EU came out with the 60% rule and that Tether has to hold their assets with their banks, I said more countries are going to adapt this policy. Okay, whatever policies that get established around the world in these major countries and major continents will most likely be the same rule in different continents, different countries. And it seems like, once again, I was right. And Tether is not going to be operating in the United Arab Emirates or Dubai very soon by the looks of it, because there's no way in hell Tether is going to be holding 50% of their assets in those banks, because Tether has been lying about their assets since day one. They actually been fined $14 million once because they didn't have the reserves they claimed to have a very long time ago. So, I mean, Tether is also digging their own grave by helping countries that are sanctioned. I mean, Chinese banks, just to put in perspective, Chinese banks are having difficulties doing business with Russia because Chinese banks don't want to get essentially, sanctioned by the United States. Even though Russia and China are BRICS countries, Chinese banks are having difficulties with doing business with Russia, even though they're in the same BRICS group, because they don't want to get sanctions. And here comes Tether. You are sanctioned? No problem. We don't care about sanctioned countries. Work with Tether. Yeah, Tether is already digging their own grave, and they're not going to be, operating in any country by the looks of it anytime soon. So pretty much goodbye Tether by the looks of it. Deferred once more is what we're going to now. MTGOX is what we're going to go through next. MTGOX is the crypto platform that was compromised a very long time ago, the biggest crypto platform in Japan. Huge amounts of bitcoins were lost, but essentially some of them were recovered, and they were supposed to be doing refunds this year. It seems like those refunds are not coming out this year, but they're coming out next year. And it also seems like they don't want to dump on the market this year. You see, FTX, when the whole FTX situation happened, people are going to be getting refunds from FTX in cash, by fiat, in other words, which means the people who get refunded from FTX are going to have newfound money to reinvest inside the market space, which is a positive. MTGOX is going to be refunding people in Bitcoin and Japanese yen. The yen, positive, because those people get newfound money to enter the crypto space again. But the Bitcoin that's going to get refunded, those people will most likely sell their assets, which means a dump will be created inside the market space, which also means the reason why MTGOX is not going to be refunding the majority of Bitcoins this year is because they probably don't want the markets to be dumping this year. Instead, they've aimed for next year. So, MTGOX creditors are once again facing a delay in receiving their repayments. The cryptocurrency exchange has moved their repayment deadline to October 31st, 2025, extending the wait for those affected by the exchange's collapse. This extension is a frustrating setback for many creditors who have been anticipating earlier repayments. The trustees overseeing the remaining assets of MTGOX attributes the delay of logistic challenges. At its peak, MTGOX was the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, handling over 70% of all Bitcoin transactions. However, a massive security breach in 2014 led to a loss of approximately 850,000 Bitcoins. This incident exposes vulnerabilities in the exchange's security protocols and resulted in MTGOX filing for bankruptcy. Since then, MTGOX has been involved in a lengthy legal and financial recovery process. The repeated delays in recoveries and distribution process have frustrated creditors who have been waiting for nearly a decade to be paid back. The current trustee is working to liquidate their converted assets into a form that can be distributed to their creditors. However, the ongoing delays underscore the challenges that MTGOX creditors are continuing to face. The fluctuations of values of Bitcoin also means that the eventual compensation may not align with the assets initially lost. The MTGOX saga serves as a reminder of risk involved in cryptocurrency exchanges and of the long-lasting repercussions of security failures. As of 2025 deadline approaches, creditors can only hope for a final solution or resolution of compensation for their losses. So MTGOX is not going to be refunding anybody this year, by the looks of it. It's going to be coming next year, towards the end of the next year, is by the way what they're looking at. But apparently they don't want to dump on the market space now. Coordinated. They want to start doing it next year. And maybe next year stretches into 2026. Who knows? Now, what we're going to talk about next is the United Kingdom. Because we know when the target is for CBDCs when it comes to Brazil, 2025. Brazil is going to be coming out with their CBDC 2025. The EU is going to be coming out with their CBDC 2025. Russia is going to be coming out with their digital ruble CBDC 2025. India is going to be expanding into their CBDC 2025. You can catch the trend here. The British have been talking about CBDCs for a while, but they never give a deadline. But I did say, in fact, that when even the UK, the Bank of England, was stating, 2030 is when we're going to be looking at for the British CBDC. 2030, 2035, and, every centralized bank around the world once upon a time gave a deadline of 2030. And I said they're all lying. And then they give the deadline of 2029 for CBDCs. And I said they're also lying. And they said 2028, 2027, 2026, and now it's 2025. And some countries even released their CBDCs this year in small stages, which always, made me say to everybody, they're lying about their deadlines because they want you to think that you have a lot of time to enter the digital space to hedge against CBDCs. That's right, hedge against CBDCs by going for crypto assets. Or if you want to be, smarter than majority of people inside the crypto space, go for the backbone of CBDCs, to be one above everybody else. And the UK government has came out basically and stated that the UK faces privacy challenges, is what they're working on, ahead of their 2025 CBDC pilot. So even the British government are coming out next year with their CBDC. The same country that said 2030. So the same country that said 2030 is now 2025. I did say also the British don't want to be left behind the EU. The whole reason that BRICS essentially Brexit even happened was because the UK knew we were going to be heading towards a digital future, and they didn't want to be under the EU regulations and policies in a digital future. They want to have their own regulations and policies going forward. And the UK CBDC pilot 2025. It used to be it's never going to happen, and then it went to 2030, and now 2025. Before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section. Let's go and let's see what's going on in there. If you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. This is a live. And if you're new inside the crypto space, don't be shy. Put your questions down. Ripple event is starting tomorrow. Not if, but when Tether crashes, will this bring XRP crashing? If Tether crashes, if USDT crashes, there's two ways it could go down regarding Tether. It could either be Tether is phased out, USDT is phased out, and something else is replacing it as it's getting phased out, which wouldn't, disrupt the market space too much, but it'll still disrupt it, but not too much, because there's an alternative for a stablecoin, and the alternative will be Ripple's RLUSD. Some people might assume, well, why does Ripple get to replace Tether for a stablecoin in terms of their RLUSD? Because USDC is bad. It's a very simple way to put it. You see, Tether has an issue of transparency. Nobody knows what's backing Tether USDT. Only Tether knows and claims to know. And when it comes to Circle USDC, depegged once, and it took them 2 weeks to be able to repeg properly. So we have two stable coins inside the market space. One that's right now thinking about working with sanctioned countries. I don't know how that's gonna go, good. And we have another one who's been depegged once, and that's once more than it needs to. And that's why RLUSD will take their positions, because no matter if somebody's out there inside the crypto space and they hate essentially Ripple, even if you hate Ripple, you know for a fact Ripple is deep pocketed, which means their stablecoin will never depeg, because Ripple has deep pockets and deep connections by the looks of it, but also that they never get compromised. XRP has never been compromised, not even once. XRP has never become congested once. The XRP ledger has never become congested, never became compromised. You can't say the same thing for other chains out there, because ETH has became essentially congested and Solana crashed 11 times. So there's a lot of scenarios with all types of blockchain projects out there. So no matter if you hate Ripple, you still know that they've never been compromised, fact. That they've never essentially had, deep money and problem issues, facts. So no matter how much you hate Ripple, that stablecoin is going to be overtaking. The reason why I'm saying this is because the two outcomes. One, Tether gets phased out, which means another stablecoin will replace it, which means it will create a little bit of disruption in the market space, but not too much. If Tether's USDT doesn't get phased out and it's just Wells Notice suing Tether, then that will disrupt the entire market space badly, which also creates a buying opportunity for anything you want to go for inside the crypto space. BRICS nations are also having their meetings this month on the 22nd until the 24th for cross-border payments and de-dollarization. That's true. Yes, facts. Let's go, Frankie brother. I feel XLM will keep on keeping with USDC. How do you feel? I feel like XLM will keep on keeping with USDC. Yeah, why not? A lot happening this month. A lot is happening this month. That's facts. Share the live, please. Let's go, Scott. For sure, the CBUAE will go with Ripple. Makes sense. May I send you a link from Maverick on his lookout? Sure, why not? Golden Dragon, send me a link. You can send me on X, you can send me on Telegram. Go for it. Don't miss out, people. How you doing, more money? Now we know the bull run will last until October next year. I absolutely appreciate your full-scale outlook of deep research. No problem, Golden Dragon, anytime. Ripple has good friends. Yes, they do. Facts. Now, UK CBDC. As the UK prepares for a central bank digital currency pilot in 2025, next year, critics warn that it could introduce unprecedented levels of state surveillance. While CBDCs promise to modernize the financial system, experts from organizations like Big Brother Watch argue that the government may prioritize privacy. According to Susanna, essentially a legal and policy officer at Big Brother Watch, the case for the UK CBDC still has not been made, especially given the risk to privacy, equality, and even potentially freedom of expression. The Bank of England and the Treasury must justify why overhauling our financial landscape with a CBDC is necessary, and that are clearly and outline how the public will be protected from extensive catalogs of risk. Okay, for anyone out there that assumes, even for a second, because there's a lot of morons in this world, okay, and one of them being Susanna, because Susanna works for a department, a legal policy officer for a Watch Big Brother company inside the United Kingdom, and Susanna has came out from a legal perspective saying the UK government has to tell us why they're going towards CBDCs because we don't need CBDCs. One thing you should understand about any government in the world is if they want to do something, they just do it. They don't really need your permission. They've never needed your permission. Doesn't that feel better just to tell the truth instead of people pretending that, they're asking the government, why are you doing CBDCs? As if the government's going to go, oh no, Susanna doesn't like CBDCs. Let's just stop everything we're doing on CBDCs. The government doesn't care about your opinion, Susanna, and nobody else does. I'll be funny. The reason why I'm saying this is not to make Susanna look bad or anybody else that's asking questions to look bad. But what I am trying to say to you is wake up, okay? Because the only thing you can do is enter the digital space, position yourself inside of a cryptocurrency space, position yourself as a backbone of CBDCs, XRP, and just wait for CBDCs. You asking questions of why are you doing CBDCs? We don't need them is going to make zero difference. It's still going to happen. So because if it's still going to happen, then position yourself. Don't ask stupid questions as if the government is honestly going to turn around and say, well, this person doesn't like CBDCs, let's just stop all productions. The government doesn't care. If the government cared about your opinions, the countries that we're living in wouldn't be like this. Just think about it for a second. If any government cared about your opinion, would you be living in countries like this with high inflation? They print money whenever they want. They start random wars. Groceries are higher. Mortgages are higher. Lending's higher. Car payments are higher. Groceries are higher. Electricity is higher. Gas. They don't care about your opinion. Governments are there to make a quick buck as much as they can. That's all it is. Just greed and power. They're not there to serve you. Governments are not there to serve you. They're just there to make money from you. And full stop. So what you can do is position yourself so you can make some money also alongside them. Or you can ask stupid questions and that you're never going to get an answer to. It's very simple. Technically, they're there to serve you, but in reality, they're not here to serve you. Because somewhere down the line, that, I don't know where it went wrong, but somewhere down the line, they stopped serving you and just started filling their own pockets. So position yourself for a CBDC instead of trying to ask dumb questions. Because it's going to happen whether you like it or not. The Bank of England and Treasury must justify, this is what Susanna said, the Bank of England and Treasury must justify why overhauling our financial landscape with CBDCs is necessary and clearly outline the public will be protected from extensive catalogs of risk. As if they're going to do that. Big Brother Watch, an organization focused on protecting civil liberties, has raised concerns about privacy in the digital age. They argue that without strong safeguards built in the framework of CBDCs, the risk of data misuse could rise, compromising personal freedoms. The Bank of England has been consulting on CBDC designs. but most people still need to know what it involves. There is a huge amount of information on CBDCs. If people wanted to learn, they can always, very simple, you go to Google and you type in CBDCs, and there's about 1 billion search results of what a CBDC is. But some people just don't care, hence why the world is the way it is. To raise awareness, give citizens a voice in the future of CBDCs. To give citizens a voice in the future of CBDCs. She clearly doesn't know what a CBDC is. CBDC means zero voice, not more voice. Organizations like Big Brother Watch are working to inform the public and encourage participants in the government consultation. Organizations like this should be helping people to realize that they need to get involved inside the digital space, that they need to be going for some crypto assets, that they need to be informed of what crypto assets are. So instead of telling people it's never going to happen because we're going to help stop CBDCs, how about you start preparing people for CBDC? How about you start telling people what is Bitcoin, or what is XRP? What is the XRP ledger? Why is this important to know about CBDC platforms? Which way are we heading inside of a digital? How about you start preparing people like this, which is preparing them for the reality of what's going to happen? Instead of telling people, we're not going to let them do CBDCs unless you are informed. They don't care about your opinion. So prepare people for CBDCs rather than lying to them. Further highlights an important issue, noting that with the Bank of England ruling out a digital pound, which is anonymous and there is real danger for this form of digital money, is on track to be digital spy coin. She adds that while the previous government's pledge to legislate against programmable digital money that restricts spending was a positive step, we need further assurance from the new government that more clarity on how privacy safeguards would be working essentially in practice. There is an important distinction between private companies collecting data and the state essentially accessing personal information, while private companies may misuse data for commercial purposes. State essentially access to personal information could enable invasive tracking and controlling of financial behaviors. That's already happening. Okay, there's a lot of things that people are being lied to in this world regarding private companies having access to your data. Private companies already have access to everybody's data. There's a company by the name of Ofcom, which essentially works with 150 well-established companies around the world. And if people ever wondered to themselves, does my phone listen to me? Yes, your phone listens to you. There was essentially a company that came out and said, yeah, we've been listening to everybody. But that news got died out and another news came out and took its position. So regarding private companies having access to your data and selling that information alongside you, they're already doing that. This is what I'm saying. Why don't they just tell people the truth instead of twisting it? While private companies may misuse data for commercial purposes, which they already do, state access to personal information could enable essentially tracking and control of financial behaviors. This raises larger risks to civil liberties and individual freedoms, as if we have freedoms in this world. Organizations like Big Brother Watch are pushing for more transparency as the 2025 pilot approaches for the British CBDC. While there have been many rumors that the pilot timeline may be delayed and focus more on wholesale rather than retail applications, the Bank of England has yet to provide clear details. This ongoing uncertainty raises further concerns about how privacy will be safeguarded in the final design. The House of Lords has already signaled concerns and amendments to the CBDC proposal. Forbes has reached out to key organizations involved in the deployment. According to one source, there are many delays in the pilot timeline, with a shift and focus towards wholesale applications rather than retail. The only reason they're releasing wholesale CBDCs first is because they want everybody around you to accept CBDCs and then release the retail CBDC so you can use that CBDC. Political engagements will be important to ensure that privacy concerns are not sidelined as technological advances outpace the law. The UK CBDC pilot could reshape finance and how money works, but without clear protections, it risks eroding civil liberties in the process. The clock is ticking for the UK to get this right. The upcoming pilot offers an opportunity to build a system that balances innovation with civil rights. But without public scrutiny and political pressure, the risk may outweigh the rewards. It's going to be happening either way. She's talking as if, they have to give us a reasoning of why they're doing CBDCs. I'll be honest, if you live in the UK, nobody with a brain in the UK wants to send a single penny to Ukraine. But we still do. And if you tell the British government, why are you sending money to Ukraine? Why are you sending our, tax-paying money to Ukraine? They don't give you an answer. This is what I'm trying to say, as they don't care about your opinion. You asking governments, why are you doing CBDCs, as if they're going to stop their operations, or as if they're going to be, making booklets and handing them out to people inside the public and going, this is what a CBDC is. This is how we're going to control you. They don't have to give you an answer. So what you can do instead is prepare everybody for a CBDC. Prepare them for a CBDC world, because it's going to happen. So prepare them instead of lying to them. Honestly, there's not a single person with a brain in the UK that wants to send a single penny to Ukraine, but we still do. And if you ask the government, they say, they won't give you a response. Now, Xi Jinping and Putin is what we're going to be talking about next. Xi Jinping and essentially, Xi and Putin might be way in over their heads with de-dollarization, is what we're going to talk about next. But before we go through that, let's go into the comment section first. Regarding BRICS is what we're going to talk about next. Everyone needs to keep holding tight. Facts. Let's go simple. This is real funny. I told my mother CBDCs are coming soon. She said over her dead body, lol. That Miles, I don't think you realize she has a poster, a really nice sign of colorful pictures to stop CBDCs. Let's go up, Pisces. Stormy, hi Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well, Stormy. How you doing? Evening, Miles and CMF. What's your opinion on Trump's coin launching tomorrow? World Liberty Financial. Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? I've been telling everybody regarding Trump's coin coming out soon. I think it's look, regarding Trump creating a crypto project, I said, why not? A brilliant idea for Trump to create a crypto project. It's a brilliant idea. I said the timeline is a terrible idea. I said the timeline is quite stupid. Because why release a crypto project before your presidency? Because a lot of things can go sideways, Okay, one thing I'm going to be saying. This is how bad it can possibly go. Everybody remember, Trump did, for the first time ever, a conversation with Elon Musk. Everybody remember on X, Trump did, an X Spaces with Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk was tweeting out, they're trying to dedox, essentially, their X Spaces. And that's why they were having difficulty for 30, 45 minutes, an hour to start the X Live with Trump and Elon Musk. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of haters out there. And there's a lot of government political, politicians out there that are extreme haters that will go to some absurd levels of sabotage to make somebody look bad. Trump was trying to do a X Spaces with Elon Musk, and they were dedoxing the live X Spaces. The haters were dedoxing, all the political companies were dedoxing X Spaces just so Trump couldn't do his speech. For crying out loud, the EU came out and said, we're banning the X Spaces of Trump because they didn't want people to hear Trump. And a lot of other countries tried to ban that X Spaces. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of hatred towards this man. And that's how I know you've picked the correct person. Because if every politician or majority of politicians hate Trump, then you know you've definitely picked the correct candidate. Because if you pick a politician that every politician around them loves them, then you know for a fact you've picked the worst candidate. Genuinely. Because if you pick a political candidate and every politician around that political candidate loves this politician, It's because everybody around them is going to be eating from your tax-paying money. But if you pick a candidate to become a president or a prime minister and every politician hates him, it's because those politicians will not be eating from your tax-paying money. That's why they hate that man. So always remember that. Always. But here's the thing. There's a lot of politicians out there that hate this man. Hate this man. Which means if this man comes out with a crypto project before his presidency, the amount of hacking that's going to be happening, trying to bring this project down and trying to sabotage this project, trying to sabotage his users is going to be ridiculous. Which isn't going to look good for Trump because the news doesn't care it became hacked. The news titles will be Trump scams its crypto users or Trump scams its crypto followers. And that's not the truth. But the news doesn't care about the truth. So what I am trying to say is there's a lot of people that were trying to stop this man going on X Spaces. So what makes you think they're going to let this man have a crypto project that isn't compromised? I said the timing of him launching a crypto project is a terrible idea. Launch a crypto project after you become president, not before. They hate this man too much. And they will try their best to compromise that crypto project somehow and hack it. There are politicians out there that will sabotage this project on purpose. And they don't care about the users getting essentially affected in the progress. Just to make him look bad. So it's a terrible idea to launch it before he becomes president. After he becomes president, launch it. They wouldn't let Trump do X Spaces. But they're going to, let him do a crypto project. They will be trying to enter that crypto project and hack it from every angle. This is why it's a bad idea and why he shouldn't launch it before he becomes president. After he becomes president, launch whatever you want. Launch 10 crypto projects. Launch 100 different types of crypto projects after you become president, not before it. I don't know which moron is around Trump and telling him, let's launch a crypto project. It's a stupid idea before his presidency. And it could also be that they're taking advantage of Trump. Nobody knows. They could be taking advantage of Trump, trying to make him launch a crypto project so it goes south, so he loses voters. There's that scenario as well, that there's somebody maybe potentially around Trump telling him to quickly launch a crypto project. It's a great idea. And the crypto project goes south on purpose, so he looks bad last minute. There's also that scenario as well, that somebody maybe around Trump is lying to him, telling him to launch a crypto project, and it's a sabotage tactic to make him look bad in front of his voters, to make him look like he's scamming his own voters. It's a stupid idea, honestly. For him to launch a project now, wait, very dumb. Very dumb. After he becomes president, then launch whatever you want. Right now, it's too risky. Naturally, normal crypto projects get compromised. Imagine if it's a Trump crypto project. Miles CMF. So that's what I honestly think about. I'm not going to be entering into it whatsoever. Government has their own hidden agendas, and they don't tell us. Typically, crooked Moors. Yep. So greatly said on Trump coins. Let's go, Stormy. Miles, is that Ukraine which you announced a few nights where they are in one block with Russia? The CIS group? No. Is that what you're referring to? Thanks, Miles. Would you not be investing in this coin then? No, hell no. Miles, respectfully speaking, Trump hates a lot of people. I listen to him daily. They trying to kill him and won't hike him. So well said. Let's go, Golden Dragon. I agree. Definitely wouldn't launch a project now. I have blocked all MSM news feeds like CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, and others. All they do is lie and cover up the mess that's, Skamala essentially creates. I agree. Trump launch, I think, is good marketing to approach the millennials or Democratic kids that are gamers. Will look at Trump and attempt, as it was twice, so bringing down the project, a big deal. Yeah. Now, Xi Jinping and Putin might be way in over their heads with de-dollarization, is what we're going to talk about next. With Russia and the current chair of BRICS and Kazan summit coming up, set for October 22nd, both leaders are pushing to replace the dollar in global trade. The group, originally Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, will be joined by new members from Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. The goal is to increase financial cooperation and promote the use of local currencies in international trade. But let's be honest, they might be getting in way over their heads. So the BRICS summit is coming up 22nd of October, so this month, not the 22nd. Trade between Russia and China has surged. In 2023, it hit $227 billion, a 25% bump compared to its previous years. Almost 90% of that trade was done in rubles or yuan. But Xi Jinping, despite his big talk, is still stuck with the dollar in many ways. About 50% of China's foreign reserves are held in US dollars, which makes a full-blown de-dollarization effort pretty damn hard to pull off for China. The de-dollarization mission is not doing so hot. Putin has been diversifying Russia's reserves, boosting his holdings in the Chinese yuan. China, though, is playing a trickier game. Its economy at $18 trillion dwarfs Russia's $2 trillion economy, which makes this whole de-dollarization thing riskier for Beijing. China's resilience on American markets and investments means that switching to other currencies isn't as easy as Putin's playbook might suggest. Analysts warn that Russia's tactics may not work for China in the long run. Adapting them wholesale would be essentially dangerous for Chinese market spaces. The reason why it will be dangerous for Chinese market spaces to de-dollarize is because China will have to close their doors to selling to essentially the US. If China, essentially goes against the dollar, that means they're going to lose the American market space. Why? Because the American market space will sanction China, which means then China will be losing the American market space, which means they can't sell to America, which also means they can't sell to Canada, which also means they can't sell to the EU, which also means they can't sell to Australia, which also means they can't sell to Japan, which also means they can't sell to Singapore. And the list just goes on. Fearing a scenario similar to Russia's, where sanctions crippled its access to global markets, China is trying to slowly reduce exposure to dollar assets. But it's delicate balance. One wrong step, and Xi Jinping is dragging the economy into a recession. China's economy is, not doing that well right now. To be fair, the entire world's economy is not doing too great right now. So the last thing you want to do in this bad economy is, walk on eggshells. It's not so simple. BRICS is exploring options like creating a shared currency or setting up a new payment system that doesn't rely on SWIFT, which is the global banking network dominated by the US space. But don't hold your breath for any immediate changes, because let's be real, the chances of BRICS pulling off a unified currency anytime soon are slim to none. The economic, essentially, differences between members like South Africa and China are huge. In fact, the summit will likely focus on strengthening local currency use in trade between member countries. A common currency, though, is probably still in the pipe dream. BRICS countries are also targeting the energy sector. Saudi Arabia has already started selling more oil to China rather than in dollars. That's a big deal, but here's the thing. The shift is happening faster with non-crude oil products. Crude oil itself is still mostly traded in dollars, something the news will never tell you. And that's not going to change overnight. Also something the news will never tell you. The news about BRICS. The liquidity and well-established practices in oil trading make it hard to essentially dislodge the dollar's role. The almighty dollar isn't going anywhere yet. The dollar is still essentially sitting pretty at the world's top currency. The US economy accounts for 26% of the global GDP. And the size of the economy makes the dollar a go-to for international investors. America has something no other country can touch, and that's confidence. Global investors see the dollar as a safe bet, especially when economic or geopolitical crisis hits. It's true. When the Ukraine and Russia situation happened, the US dollar became a safe haven. The same dollars that everybody will call useless, in reality it is, but the same dollars that's useless became a safe haven when the Ukraine and Russia war started. The same dollar that everybody calls useless became a safe haven when the war between Israel and Palestine started. The same dollar that everybody calls useless became a safe haven when the Iran and Israel situation keeps on jumping up. Right now, the dollar is the king of global trades. Commodities like oil are still mostly priced in dollars. There's also the deep liquidity of US markets, making it easier for investors to buy and sell essentially dollar assets. No other currency can touch the dollars on the essentially on this front. Plus, it makes up 64% of global foreign reserves, up from 49% in 2010. The US Treasuries are widely considered the safest investment in the world. No other country has a bond market as big or as trusted as the United States. This is why foreign governments hold on to their dollar-dominated assets. In your eyes, it might not seem that way. You might think, well, the dollar, they're printing too much US dollars. It's useless. It has no backings. It's reserve assets and so on. So it makes no sense to the average eye. To the average eye, none of this makes any sort of sense. But to an institution, a major corporation, or a government, this makes a lot of sense. Honestly, to a retail section person, if they read this and they go, well, how does that make sense? They keep on printing more dollars. How does that make sense? Why is it still valued? That's what I'm saying. To the average eye, this will make no sense. But to a massive corporation or to a government, makes a lot of sense. Why it's still a safe haven. The geopolitical essentially chessboard, here's where it gets essentially messier. The USD's dominance allows America to widely massive regarding geopolitical powers. America can hit countries with sanctions that choke off access to dollar-based financial systems. No serious alternatives have emerged. The euro, now it's too politically divided. The essentially Chinese yuan and so on, strict capital controls make it unattractive for global use. Bitcoin, not yet. Or any crypto assets, not yet. But again, the member countries have different priorities and makes collective actions tricky. A real move away from the dollar could even trigger economic retaliation from Washington. It's true. Any country that publicly starts de-dollarizing itself, day by day, will get sanctioned from the US, which will then put a lot of pressure on that country for them not to be able to do trades with other countries. And it doesn't matter how big or how small that country is. Under sanctions, it won't survive. The reason why Russia has survived so far on the sanctions is because China is still playing ball with Russia. And some other countries that are sanctioned. Iran's, for example, sanctioned. They play ball with Russia because they're both sanctioned. So countries that are sanctioned, they'll play ball with each other. China, who's a BRICS member, plays a little bit of ball with Russia, but Chinese banks are having second thoughts, even though they're BRICS members, because Chinese banks don't want to get sanctioned. And this is why I say to the average eye, this makes no sense. To the average eye, they will look at the BRICS headlines. BRICS launching this, and BRICS is going to be de-dollarizing, and BRICS is going to take over. To the average eye, this is what it seems like. To massive corporations and to governments, it's a laugh. It's a big laugh. They're laughing their heads off. There are massive corporations out there right now reading BRICS news articles and laughing their heads off. But the public will read BRICS articles and praise it and go, oh, This is, amazing. BRICS is going to be coming in. We're finally going to get a currency that's going to be valued correctly. Everybody gets a choice. Everybody gets a voice. This is what it looks like when a retail section person reads the news. But when big corporations read these headlines and read the articles, they're laughing their heads off, going, what a joke. Who's going to believe this BS? Well, the retail section does. The majority of the retail section. Because you don't understand how sanctions work, and it's not great for any country. Even BRICS countries are having difficulties working with each other because of sanctions. Honestly, if China gets sanctioned, they're done for. The Chinese economy right now, not doing too well at all. And I said this, the entire world's economy is not doing too well. So getting sanctioned in a state like this, in a scenario like this, is not great. Because if China gets sanctioned, the only people they're going to be selling to is Russia and Iran and Venezuela. And China produces pretty much everything at a large scale, which means they'll have a lot of products they can't sell. If that happens, China goes for a recession. So China's not going to risk a recession just to keep, playing ball with Russia, which would be the logical scenario, honestly. You cannot put an entire country into a recession just because you want to, play ball with Russia. I couldn't do that. If I was in charge of a country, knowing if I work with this country, I'll be sanctioned from the rest of the world, I would not be putting my own citizens at risk of a recession just so I can play with one country. I would have to play ball for the safety of others. This is the most powerful country on earth, and Putin likely knows better. In the end, de-dollarization may sound like a great idea on paper, but the execution, well, that's a whole nother story. Honestly, Saudi Arabia will get sanctioned. The moment Saudi Arabia decides to join BRICS, they get sanctioned next. The only reason Saudi Arabia even exists is because of oil companies in the United States. The reason why Dubai or the United Arab Emirates even exist is because of oil companies in the United States. A lot of people don't like to hear this. A lot of people pretend the UAE had its own money a very long time ago, and the UAE is this powerful country because they were a wealthy nation back in the day. No, that's not true. The reason why Dubai exists is because of America. The reason why Saudi Arabia exists the way it is because of America. The reason why Kuwait exists the way it is because of America. The way Bahrain exists is because of America. Oil companies built these countries from the ground up. So if any of these countries decide to turn their back on the United States, it's not going to be going well for them at all. Those countries were deserts until the US oil companies built those countries from the ground up. And that's the reality. That's factual. Those countries had a lot of resources, They had a lot of oil resources, and also so many other gas resources. But they needed somebody to build that infrastructure for them so they can use those oil resources, so they can use those gas resources. And who built the infrastructure for them? Who helped them to build those infrastructures? The US did. So if those countries, decide to join BRICS, it's not going to be ending very well for them, since their entire country was built by the US. I'm telling you, this BRICS notion is going to be very difficult to pull off. It's not as easy as everybody thinks. Oh, BRICS this, BRICS that. It's not as easy as you think. There's a lot of politics in between of it. A lot of politics, which could cripple some countries in the process. I'm not saying the US, won't feel the repercussions of sanctioning China. The US will feel the repercussions of sanctioning China as well. But China will feel it a lot more. Now, that's the reality of it. I want everybody to know the reality of it, not the fiction. Because on, social media, people will sell you this fiction of BRICS economies taking over the dollar and every country works together and everybody has a voice and everybody uses their own currencies. That's a fiction, not a reality. Bitwise is what we're going to talk about next. Bitwise's CEO is what we're going to go through next on tonight's live. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section. Trump launch, I think, is good marketing to approaching Democrat. Hey, Miles, how are you? I'm doing great, M Thought. Good to see you. How you doing? Maybe it'll be the same launch, the Trump Kamala's victory. Bro, this already has done. Bro, this already been done for a long time. All countries will be a part of BRICS, even the US. The US and 19 other countries are driven this. It is bigger than you think. Let me tell you one thing. The Bank of International Settlements is making these countries all sit at the same table. The Bank of International Settlements is 63 centralized banks under its establishment. The Bank of International Settlements has China under its belt, it has Russia under its belt, it has the US under its belt. All of these countries, at the end of the day, sit at the same dinner table. I've always said this. But there are some countries that want to take over other countries. They want to be the dominant currency. And the whole idea about BRICS isn't about a unified, essentially people using everybody's local currencies. It's about China's yuan pushing to first place. BRICS is not about, everybody has this also incorrect as well. BRICS is not about a collective of basket of currencies coming together, even though the rosy picture seems like that. The reality of it is the Chinese yuan wants to trump any other currency around it, wants to become number one. That's what BRICS is about. China pushing their currency down everybody's throats, which wouldn't be great either. And how I can tell you that is because when India decided to do oil trades with essentially Russia, Russia decided to not accept Indian rupees, even though India is a founding member of BRICS. And BRICS' whole slogan is, everybody gets to use local currencies. But it didn't seem that way when India was buying oil from Russia, where Russia said, we're not accepting Indian rupees. We're only going to be accepting Russian ruble or US dollars, ironically. The same country that's sanctioned by the US is only going to be accepting US dollars for oil and Russian ruble, not Indian rupees. And Russia, founding BRICS member, India, founding BRICS member. That whole slogan of collective of basket of currencies doesn't really seem to apply. Those are realities. But there's a bigger picture behind that as well, which I've said many times. Now, thank you, no problem, Golden Dragon. Also, the BRICS countries decided, well, Russia decided to create their own World Bank and International Monetary Fund. That's also not going to go down very well. A lot of people don't understand politics. Genuinely, a lot of people don't understand politics, and some people pretend to understand politics. But it's a very corrupt, very manipulative game. Beyond what you actually think is corrupt and manipulation, politics is a whole nother level on top. A whole nother level on top. Politics is. Honestly. And it applies to everything. Politics applies to crypto. I said this then day one. Politics applies to crypto when everybody else wasn't talking about it. Politics applies to crypto, applies to the stock market, applies to the real estate market, applies to war, applies to every automotive market space. Any market space you could think of, politics applies to it. And unfortunately, there's one bad king, You're right. The US knows BRICS is not as strong as they claim, which is what gives the US confidence to go ahead and print more money. Miles, thank you. No problem, Golden Dragon. And the reason why every country runs towards the US dollar, even in times of war, is because it's still a safe haven. Even though BRICS countries will tell you de-dollarization, Ukraine and Russia war, what happened to the US dollar? These are facts. For anybody claiming anything else, these are facts. Ukraine and Russia war, what happened? The US dollar became strengthened. The charts are there to prove it. The US dollar became strengthened, even though de-dollarization is going on. Remember that? BRICS, de-dollarization. Yeah. Ukraine and Russia war, the US dollar became strengthened. Israel and Palestine, the US dollar became strengthened. These are all facts. Iran and Israel, the US dollar became strengthened. Next is Taiwan and China, the US dollar will become strengthened, even though it's de-dollarization season. This is what I'm trying to say. Stay away from fiction. Come back to reality of how the world actually works. full-out war will end current. I feel two sides of BRICS, XRP, NATO, and XLM. Is there links between Musk and XRP? True. Rumors, not any sort of true, just rumors. Outstanding Mouse. Mouse tells it like it is with a crystal ball that has no regards for feelings, just facts. Let's go, right? Facts. Now, Bitwise CEO Hunter explains why banks are embracing crypto. In recent years, banks have begun to invest in cryptocurrencies, marking a shift in how traditional financial institutions view this emerging asset class. Historically, banks were hesitant to engage with cryptocurrencies due to regulatory uncertainty and concerns about market volatility. However, a growing number of banks are now betting on the potential of digital assets, according to the CEO, essentially, of Bitwise. Banks are right now betting on the future of crypto assets, which they definitely are, to be fairly honest. Historically, banks were hesitant to engage with cryptocurrencies due to regulatory uncertainty and concerns about the markets. However, a growing number of banks are now betting on the potential of digital assets, as evidenced by their increased involvements in the crypto-related investment space. Banks are starting to improve the ability for their wealth managers to put Bitcoin in client portfolios, and I think we'll see a significant shift in the next 12 months for crypto assets, said Bitwise's CEO. According to Hunter, CEO of Bitwise Asset Manager, the entry of banks into the cryptocurrency market represents a fundamental change in the financial market space. I think in 12 months, most people in crypto will realize that banks are the best thing to ever happen to crypto. I agree with as well, 1,000,000%. I've always said, with the banks and institutions and the governments coming inside the crypto space, some people decide to go against the governments inside the crypto space. Some people decide to essentially go against the banks inside the crypto space and go against the regulations and institutions inside the crypto space. I said, choose crypto projects that will benefit you with the banks coming in. Choose a crypto project that will benefit you with the regulations coming in. Choose a crypto project that will benefit you from the governments coming in, from the institutions coming in. Don't go against them. They have all the money and all the power. So if you want to make money, don't bet against them, bet with them. One major reason for this shift is the rising demand from institutional investors. Many large investment firms, hedge funds, and high net worth individuals are now looking for exposure to cryptocurrencies, driven by a desire to diversify their portfolios. Public blockchains are one of those things that can change the world, and we want to be in good stewards with the space developing into its potential. As a result, banks are responding to this demand by offering products and services that provide access to digital assets. The approval of essentially, these multiple ETFs that have been happening has further simplified the process of these investors, making it easier to integrate cryptocurrencies into traditional financial portfolios. In addition to the demand from institutional clients, banks have also drawn to innovative potentials of the blockchain technology itself. This technology offers decentralized systems of transactions that could revolutionize how financial services are delivered. For example, blockchains allows for faster settlements, times, lower transaction costs, and increased transparency. These advantages have caught the attention of banks that are eager to improve their efficiency for their operations and offer a better service to their clients. He believes, the CEO of Bitwise believes, that there are more banks that are going to be adapting blockchain and crypto assets, and the market will continue to expand, attracting more institutional participation. This growing involvement from banks is crucial for the long-term success of cryptocurrencies as they move towards a more mainstream, essentially, acceptance. It will also allow you to save money without being exploited by companies or governments, and that is ultimately going to be a good thing for society regarding cryptocurrencies. However, the CEO of Bitwise also points out that cryptocurrency industries must overcome certain challenges to fully integrate with traditional financial systems. One of these challenges is essentially regulatory clarity. While there has been some progress in establishing a regulatory framework for digital assets, more work needs to be done to ensure that banks and other financial institutions can operate confidently in the space. So, according to the Bitwise CEO, the crypto space, from now, next 12 months, we're going to be getting a lot of banks coming in. It's also something I said in 2023, what's going to be happening in 2024. But we already have essentially had a lot of banks coming inside the crypto space, a lot of regulations, policies, institutions, but expect a lot more banks. So in other words, expect a lot more money, but also expect a lot more turbulence. Either way, if you know what to do inside of turbulence, which is hold on tight and reaping the profits later, you're good to go. Now, what we're going to talk about next is Brazil's CBDC. There's an update, which is also coming out in 2025. Brazil's central bank unlocks the CBDC pilot phase, essentially for two new participants. The Central Bank of Brazil reportedly extended its central bank digital currency pilot called DREX by asking new members to use its second phase. In the second phase, the company aims to observe and diversify use cases, privacy solutions. 13 use cases have been reported in areas like carbon credits. Carbon credits in a CBDC is another way of saying social credit systems. Companies also have digital IDs, an ESG number, in other words. An ESG for companies is like a social credit system for companies, believe it or not. So whenever you hear the words carbon credits in the same sentence as CBDCs, it's just another way of saying social credit systems. Because everybody will have a carbon footprint aligned to them. And they're basically a social credit system. So carbon credits in the same sentence as CBDCs means social credit systems. Carbon credits, agriculture bonds, and foreign trade platforms for CBDCs. The invented essentially have been asked to present their proposals from October 14th to November 29th, 2024. The proposal will allegedly be checked by the executive management committees, and they will allow a shortlist the group to join the old participants. Sources state that the goal of this activity is to bring in complicated uses for the pilot. These applications will compromise credit collateralization, government-backed loans, international trade financing, and platforms for carbon credits. It is reported that one of the biggest hindrances for the pilot is that a privacy solution. In its initial phase, privacy frameworks fell short of the required standards. As a result, the central bank postponed essentially completing the DREX project until 2025, buying time for those problems to be fixed. The second phase of the pilot is expected to zoom in on privacy problems by testing a new applied essentially cases. The central bank has reassured everyone that DREX will not be made public until necessary private statements are met. They're talking out of their arse. It is alleged that DREX CBDC pilot has received 13 complex use cases for diverse potential applications for their tokenized real as well. These applications include advanced financial and environmental systems made to test how the central bank's digital currency works in a practical world. The applications of tokenized reals essentially involve sectors such as carbon credits, where digital tokens show carbon credits aiding Brazil in achievements in its environmental objectives. Agriculture bonds are also one of the applications to be verified to make financing essentially efficient in the sector and give more opportunities for getting credits. International trade platforms are poised to ease and secure foreign essentially trade transfers, while credit collateralizations will be utilized to bring more security to the financial sector. And the pilot also has issuance of government-backed loans showing CBDC abilities to bring more trust and reliability to the financial systems. So, DREX, Brazilian CBDC, coming out still in 2024 is their target set out. But what they did mention is that carbon credits is going to be one of their key features. Carbon credits is carbon footprint. Companies also have a carbon credit as well. This is ESG. If you've ever wondered to yourself why some companies all of a sudden decide to go colorful, like, Budweiser decided to go colorful for no apparent reason, which damaged their essentially stock market, which damaged their company shares. It's because companies also have an ESG number, where certain companies will be pressured to do certain things. It's not the company themselves that want to do this act, but their ESG number puts pressures on these companies to hire certain people that don't deserve those job titles, to make those people do certain things in that company, which that company does not like to do. So that's the reason why you've seen certain companies around the world suddenly go colorful for no apparent reason. It's because their ESG pressures them to do that. So their carbon footprint is that. And their CBDC carbon footprint, well, they're going to be pressuring you to do certain things as well down the line. or they'll just stop your payments. It's very simple. Honestly. For example, COVID. When COVID happened, people still were using cash. And then, the cash essential reduction started during COVID. But you still had, access to your own money. You could do whatever you want. If the government told you don't leave your homes because of COVID, people still left their homes because of COVID. But now let's just say you live in a digital world. You live in a CBDC world. And cash is extinct. And they tell you there's another scenario like COVID. And they tell you stay at home. Well, if you don't, then they'll just press one button and stop. You live in a CBDC world, which means it's easier to be controlled. Carbon footprint. They can also make, this month is carbon footprint month, where everybody has to go green. You can't drive your cars, everybody has to walk. They can do that if they wanted to. They can say, for the next, they can say the month of March is going to become carbon footprint month. Everybody has to walk everywhere now in month. In March, you have to walk. It's carbon footprint month. And if you don't, we'll tax you. We're going to save the planet every March. Every March, we're going to save the planet. And by the way, these are the same people that are buying, villas next to the ocean. They're buying front beach villas next to the ocean. The same ocean they claim is going to rise up and take everybody's homes is the same ocean that they're buying beachfront villas in. Just a little heads up. These are the people that are telling you about save the planet. Same people that take private jets are telling you in your minivan to stop driving. And they're taking private jets. Seems like the advice is coming from people that use their own advice. That's British sarcasm for you. Because they're definitely not using their own advice, but they're trying to push it towards you. With electric cars, they can shut them off also. Yes, they can. Easily. But yeah, they can. If they want to do, they can make March every year. It's carbon footprint March. Nobody's allowed to drive. Everybody walk. And what are you going to say? No. They'll just cap your money. And if you think they won't, a lot of people think, well, they can't do that. That's absurd. They can't stop my money. They did that in Canada without CBDCs. When the truck drivers were protesting in Canada, their bank accounts were frozen. And we didn't even have CBDCs then. And they still froze their bank accounts. So what makes you think they won't do it in the CBDC world, which is much more easier to freeze everybody? Now, with a lot of things happening, we have more geopolitical tensions also happening. So we have the Ukraine and Russia situation going on, but ironically, I explained a few days ago that Ukraine is a part of the CIS group. Now, the CIS group is 12 collective countries, just like BRICS. BRICS is 5 countries coming together. There's another group called CIS, which is 12 countries inside of it. And there's Kazakhstan, and so on, and Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine and Russia are on the same group. Russia is also part of BRICS, another group. There's also another group called the ASEAN group, which nobody ever talks about. And nobody ever talks about the CIS group as well, of countries. But Ukraine and Russia being in the CIS group, Putin said, the CIS countries should start de-dollarizing as well, interesting enough. But we have the Russia and Ukraine situation going on, geopolitical tensions. We have the Iran and Israel situation going on, geopolitical tensions. We also now have China and Taiwan situation going on. Maximum tensions between China and Taiwan towards an eventual war. China has apparently got essentially a lot of their warships. They're ready towards Taiwan. So a Taiwan war could be breaking out very soon as well. If that happens, it's going to affect the market space, which means if you want to put a short on the market space, not financial advice in any sort of a way, but if you ever hear the words high tensions between two countries, then you know what's going to be happening inside the market space. The market space isn't going to be rocketing up in high tensions. It's going to be rocketing back down. So you know what to do at that moment in time. Full war will end the current. Let's go inside the comment section before we go through the next news, which is China and Taiwan and how it can impact the market space. Please like Mouse. Mouse is the GOAT. Let's go Golden Dragon. Thank you for the kind words. With electric vehicles, and also shut them off. Yes, they can. Mouse, do you see any country that would reject CBDCs altogether and have some sense of sanity? No. There's not a country that can block the idea of CBDCs because the Bank of International Settlements and the International Monetary Fund won't let those countries operate without a CBDC. If there's a particular country out there and their prime minister or president is going to be against CBDCs, they will blackmail that president or prime minister to go towards CBDCs, or they will sabotage his chances of becoming prime minister or president, or sabotage his chances of living during that presidency. A CBDC is going to be happening because we're talking about World Economic Forum, most powerful people on this planet that we know of on paper, the World Economic Forum. Then we also have the Bank of International Settlements, which is the 63 centralized banks. Then we also have the International Monetary Fund. These three groups are the ones pushing for CBDCs. And if you try to go against these particular three groups, it doesn't really end well. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a prime minister, a president, or any sort of random politician, or a bank manager. They'll replace you within 5 seconds. So it's going to be happening worldwide, CBDCs. There's no way around it. What is this stream? I just joined. Entertainment, how you doing? Welcome to CMF Live. This is the CMF Live, and it's episode 180. And every night I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. That's what I do every single night. And welcome to CMF Live. Black Swan incoming. That's what Golden Dragon said. There's an outcome. It's a possibility. Are you, and by the way, I read everybody's comments one by one. Are you pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia for this war? Neither. A lot of people will ask me, which war do you support? None. I don't support any wars. Neither party. I don't support Russia. I don't support Ukraine. As sad as it might, to a lot of people, but I support the idea of me making money. I don't care about the wars. Because I can't stop the wars. That's the only reason I don't care about the wars. I can't stop the Ukraine and Russia war. Okay? No matter what I do, my voice will never count. And neither would anybody else's. Because the Ukraine and Russia war is going to continue no matter what anybody says. All I care about is profit. Because if I can't stop the war, I'm not going to be sitting on the sidelines. I might as well profit from the war, like the rest of, institutions. So, am I pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine? Neither. Couldn't care less about either one of them. I'm in it for the money. I'm in it for the profits. Some people might say that's a bit harsh, but it's the reality. What am I going to do? Cry that a war is going on? Or what am I going to do? Be jumping up and down, supporting them like there's a football team? No. Because, no offense, entertainment, but only morons will be supporting either war. The only thing you should do is profit. Make money for yourself, make money for your family. Full stop. That's all that matters. In this world, that's the only thing that matters. Making money for yourself and making money for your family. Forget about, are you pro this or pro that, or who do you support or who should win. I couldn't care less who's going to win. Because whoever's going to win is going to win. Makes no difference. But what I can do in the process, make money. By positioning myself correctly during these war times. That's all I care about. Too bad. No more killing. Yeah, no more killing. I support that as well. No more killing. But it's nothing that I can stop. And nobody can stop. No matter how many times you try to protest, whatever you do, it's not going to be stopping whatsoever. These wars will still continue. So it's either sit on the sidelines or make profit. You only have two options. Forget about who you're supporting. It's out of the equation. Make money or sit on the sidelines. That's all that matters. Too bad. Wondering where to move. Regarding the CBDC situation. Sorry, I've been in and out of the lives the last few days. Did you talk about Toronto's dominant bank, who's headquartered in Canada, but the $4 billion issue? Funny, the crypto is for criminals. Yes, I did hear about the Canadian bank regarding the fine they've received. Yep, it is funny because they say crypto is for criminals, but then the bank is doing that maneuver. Just like JP Morgan. JP Morgan has been fined hundreds of millions of dollars. Miles, what do you think is pumping Bitcoin right now? Well, the data that's came out. So the Fed members talking about essentially the market space, that the US is doing good, but also has still some issues. So the Fed member that talked today, and we went through the bullet points right at the beginning of the live, which was him talking about the US economy is doing better, but it still has a lot of difficulties and some ground to cover. That is why the market is doing good. That is why the crypto market is doing good right now. Because due to the CPI's data, due to the labor data that came through, due to much more data that the Fed was talking about, which I went from the beginning of the live. But times of market uncertainty in terms of traditional spaces, people want to the digital space or to gold and silver. But that's why, because the data came out. Now, maximum tensions between China and Taiwan. The Taiwan Strait is once again in turmoil, and tensions between China and Taiwan have reached a critical point. So is a war about to be breaking out with China and Taiwan? At the start of this week, Beijing intensified its military show of force by deploying fighter jets and warships all around the island in what it described as direct warning to Taiwan. It is true, China has essentially sent out these warships and war pilot essentially jets towards Taiwan, surrounding the island. This increase in tension occurs in contexts where relations between Beijing and Taipei have continuously deteriorated since the Lao Cheng-Ti came into power in 2024, raising fears of an escalation with unpredictable consequences. China has begun this week with a series of unusually large-scale military maneuvers around Taiwan, deploying fighter jets, bombers, and warships to encircle the island. According to China's foreign minister spokesperson, Mao Ning, this operation is a serious warning to Taiwan forces. The spokesperson asserted that Taiwanese separatism and peace in the Taiwan Strait are two completely incompatible things. This show of force is accompanied by increasingly tough rhetoric from Beijing, aimed at discouraging any attempt at official independence for the island. The military exercises, dubbed the Joint Sword 2024B, focus on combat readiness patrols, port blockades, and assaults essentially on maritime and territorial targets. China, which still views Taiwan as a rebellious province to be essentially reunited at any cost, has increased its military presence around the island in recent years. With these maneuvers, Beijing aims to showcase its ability to encircle essentially Taiwan and isolate the island in the event of a conflict. A strategy continues as its policies of increased military presence since 2021. In response to this military offense, Taiwan immediately placed its military on maximum alert. President Lai Ching-te essentially convened an emergency security meeting and denounced China's irrational and provocative behavior, which he categorized as a deliberate violation of international law. The Taiwanese Ministry of Defense assured it deployed adequate forces to respond and to protect Taiwan's freedom, democracy, and sovereignty. In this context, Taiwan has also received new American military aid exceeding. This part might be a little bit difficult to hear, but America recently had a lot of hurricane situations and floods, which not good whatsoever. And a lot of people's homes, assets were completely ruined and gone in the United States, which was devastating to see. Disasters like that are devastating to see, very devastating to see. Wars also devastating as well, but disasters like that are also very devastating to see. And when that scenario happened inside the United States, where this flood situation happened, everybody inside the United States, which was affected by that flood, as a family, got $750, which was, if you're a United States citizen and your house, your entire house is gone with the flood, and your government turns around in the United States and says, here is $750. And by the way, technically, it's not even a payment they get to keep. It's a loan of $7,500. It's a loan of $750. So if your house is gone in an entire flood and your government turns around and goes, here's $750, at the same time, they're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, it's like a spit in the face. Honestly, it's like a spit in the face. Because if my house is gone, completely gone, there's nothing left, no structure left, and my government turns around and goes, we want to help you, here is $750 for a family as a loan, it genuinely feels like they're spitting on my face, or genuinely feels like I'm being bent over. Because at the same time, if they're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and some other countries. The reason why I brought that up right now is because with all the flood situations happening inside the United States, the US has sent, in this context, Taiwan has also received new American military aid exceeding $500 million to strengthen its defensive capabilities. So again, while there's flood situations that will be happening inside the United States, people have lost their entire homes, and they've received $750. Once again, America is sending more than $500 million, money they're never going to be seeing ever again, to Taiwan. The United States, for its part, has strongly commended these maneuvers, describing them as unjustified operations that could lead to escalations of tensions. Washington has officially recognized Beijing since 1979, but is also Taiwanese main arms supplier, sees this rise in tensions as a threat to regional stabilities. In the future, the prospects for an open conflict remain uncertain, but this new episode illustrates how explosive the situation in Taiwan Strait has become, as every string move risks triggering a confrontation with global consequences. This new show of force by China around Taiwan further complicates relations between the two territories. As Taiwan strengthens its alliance and defense capabilities, Beijing clearly demonstrates its willingness to impose its views by force if necessary. The role of the United States as a key supporter of Taiwan will be crucial in the coming months as the risk of military confrontation continues to grow in the region. Okay, the only thing I will say is that if China decides to actually invade Taiwan, then China will get sanctioned, which means China is prepared to get sanctioned by the United States. It's the only way I can see it. If China actually decides to invade Taiwan, China knows it will be sanctioned day one, which means China will be cut off from every other market space around the world, which means China will be starting a war with Taiwan while going through a crippling recession because they can't sell anything to anyone because they're sanctioned, except Russia and Iran. But they're not really two big market spaces, to be fairly honest. Russia's a good market space size, but Iran's not really a big market space. And I'm Iranian. I'm Persian originally, so I'm telling you the truth. So if China decides to start a war with Taiwan, China will also be at the same time going through a crippling recession. So if I was China, think twice about it. I would genuinely think twice about starting a war with Taiwan. Because do you really want to be starting a war at the same time going through a crippling recession? That's the only way the US controls countries from certain wars. It's the only way. By using sanctions to control certain countries from starting wars. And as I said, China's economy is not doing too good. The world's economy is not doing too good. So China has to think twice about invading Taiwan. If they do it, they're going to get sanctioned. If they get sanctioned, they're going to go for a crippling recession while trying to go to war with Taiwan. And Taiwan is going to get support once again from the US, from the UK, from the EU. And that could be military support or money. At the same time, China is going through a crippling recession whilst facing other countries. That would be a perfect time if China wants to start BRICS. I'll be honest, because if China starts a war with Taiwan, knowing it's going to get sanctioned, it's the best time for China to start that whole BRICS campaign if they wanted to. Because they're sanctioned anyways, you might as well start BRICS. And maybe that is why they're doing it. Maybe China wants to invade Taiwan so they can get Taiwan back, because Taiwan used to be a part of China. So maybe China wants to do that. Maybe China wants to start a war with Taiwan so they could get Taiwan back and start BRICS. Who knows? Maybe that is one of the outcomes, that China wants to do that. They thought, might as well. We'll get Taiwan back in the process and we start BRICS. We'll go through a crippling recession and come out the other side, strong, is what they're probably assuming. If the whole Steve Kamala wins, China will hit Taiwan shortly after. They're chopping at the bit. Yeah, honestly, if Trump wins the presidential election, then the Taiwan and China war is never going to start. I think it could be a big show for distraction, but I may be wrong. No, it's an outcome. Wars are also, distractions as well, but there are also ways for people to make money. You position yourself correctly inside the market space. But it could also be another outcome, that China wants to get Taiwan back and at the same time start BRICS and go through equivalent recession to come out the other side. Using XRP BRICS, yeah, the Bank of International Settlements. So there's a PDF documentation titled Cross-Border Payments. And on that PDF document for cross-border payments is from the Bank of International Settlements, the banks of 63 centralized banks, and it does state SWIFT, Ripple on that, of who's going to be used for cross-border payments. It states it already. But yeah, it's not just BRICS that's going to be using XRP, it's the entire world. As I said, China, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, India, they're all a part of the Bank of International Settlements. US, Canada, EU, Australia, Japan, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, and so on, they're all a part of the Bank of International Settlements. Even though that's BRICS and that's the West, they're all in the same group, which is called Bank of International Settlements. The Bank of International Settlements has a PDF, cross-border payments. Projects that would be used for cross-border payments. SWIFT, Ripple, it's on the document. It's a public information. So it's not just BRICS using XRP. In general, everybody. It's a backbone for CBDCs, not just for BRICS, but for everybody, because BRICS, Bank of International Settlements. America, Bank of International Settlements. UK, Bank of International Settlements. Canada, Bank of International Settlements. They're all under the Bank of International Settlements. So in general, it's not just BRICS, XRP, everybody XRP. Bank of International Settlements. Now, France. Using BRICS, please. So that's what I would say. Black Swan. It's an outcome. It's not the outcome, but it's an outcome. Definitely Golden Dragon. Now, I just wanted to help you on that one, Golden Dragon, when he said using XRP BRICS, it's everyone. Bank of International Settlements. Now, France. France, which is massive positive, everyone. France bankruptcy is now imminent. So I've been talking about France's market space, which is not doing great either, just like the Chinese market space. And I said the world market space is not doing too good right now. So France's bankruptcy is now imminent. The French government is facing a troubling financial situation. The deficiency could exceed 6% in 2024, forcing the executives to plan a burgeoning effort of 60 billion euros for 2025. Despite this drastic measure of public spendings will continue to rise by 2.1%, the situation raises serious questions about the management of public finances, and voices are being raised to point fingers at those responsible and question potential such as councilmen. The Finance Committee of National Assembly, chaired by Eric, is considering transforming into an investigating committee. The goal would be to understand how such a slippage could have occurred. I can tell you very easily why France is going, sliding downhill. Macron is the key of why France is sliding downhill. This approach underscores the magnitude of the crisis of confidence affecting state financial institutions. The Solomon vote on the budget is scheduled for November 5th. In this tense context, the Barrios government could be forced to resort to Article 49.3 of the consultation. This decision could further weaken the executive already in difficulty. The government's credibility is being undermined. The French government's credibility is being undermined. Critics directly accuse Emmanuel Macron of being responsible for that debt. You don't say. The man's been running the country. Macron has been running France for God knows how long. And Macron has driven France downhill. Since day one he got into office until now. The president is said to have refused certain cost-saving measures, particularly concerning retreats, fearing electrical repercussions. This situation highlights the tensions within the executives. In response to this crisis, the government has considered burgeoning cuts in several sectors. The Justice Department could see its burgeoning reduced by 500 million euros, a decision that raises concerns in an area already under defund compared to European standards. Local authorities are also on the spotlight. The government plans to ask them for an effort of about 20 billion euros, or 1/3 of the total effort. However, the local authorities have not yet been given their consent, which suggests difficult negotiations ahead. The burgeoning crisis is already having tangible effects. The most of France's consumers are no longer paying their rent, accumulating about 200 million euros in debt. Most people in France decided not to pay their rent. 200 million euros in debt is just from people not paying their rent in France. This situation is putting pressure on consumers and raises questions about the state's capacity to fulfill its sovereign duties. This issue is not new. In 2020, the tab even climbed to 1 billion euros before being settled. However, the reassurance of this payment delays highlights the structural difficulties of public finances. Other public services could be affected. Payment delays are reported in various sectors, such as legal aid. This situation quickly gave and became essentially untenable and led to a degradation of public services. Financial markets are being the depth of French's essentially financial solitude. The French spread has risen above the Portugal and Spain, because Spain and Portugal are also not doing too great. France is now borrowing for 5 years more expensive than Greece. Greece's economy is terrible also. A worrying sign of how its economic health is perceived. French credibility is at stake right now. If investors lose confidence in the information provided by the government, it could have traumatic consequences on borrowing rates and worsen the situation. Rating agencies are closely monitoring the situation. A downgrade of France's credit rating could have a catastrophic, essentially, consequences on its ability to borrow on the cost of its debt. If France is going to have difficulty borrowing against its debt because the rating agencies are going to be lowering them lower than any other European country, France is going to go to a deep depression. The Euro system has allowed France to continue borrowing despite its structural weakness because of corruption. But with Germany itself in trouble, this mechanism might have reached its limits. I also told everybody Germany is having difficulties as well. I said the EU, recently the EU came out and said the ECB, the European Central Bank, came out with a report about a week ago. And they said the EU's economy is doing excellent. We're heading towards lowering inflation. Rent prices are coming down. Mortgage prices are coming down. Gas prices are coming down. Everything's perfect. Don't worry about it. I said they're lying. I said the longer you stretch those numbers, the bigger the bubble is going to be when it bursts. I said this. I said the rating agencies are also lying as well. The more they play around with those numbers, the bigger the bubble will get. And the bigger the bubble, the bigger the burst, which means the bigger the repercussions for who? For the rich and powerful? No, for you, the public. The analysis raises questions about the long-term viabilities of the European Economic and Monetary Union. If France, the second largest economy in the Eurozone, were to face severe difficulties, the entire European structure could be threatened. The current situation echoes that of 2010, when Francine Philip declared he was leading a bankrupt state. In the forecast in 2024, 6.1 is the highest since that period. The question now is how far for an economic chaos can go before revolution erupts. The sacrifices to come could be brutal, with significant social consequences. The Greek experience might offer a glimpse of social consequences of such crisis. However, France, as the second largest economy in the Eurozone and a significant military power, could undergo the same type of external interventions as Greece could. The European Union has played a crucial role in maintaining French financial stability over the past decade. The policies of the European Central Bank, money printing, including quantitative easing, have provided France with historically low interest rates. However, this mechanism seems to have reached its limits. With rising interest rates and Germany's economic difficulties, France is once again exposed to the realities of this financial situation. This development raises questions about the sustainability of the European projects in the current form. A major crisis in France could have repercussions on the entire Eurozone and challenge the very foundation of the economic and monetary union of the EU. France is a critical turning point. The choices made in the coming months for the French government will be decisive not only for France's future, but also for the European Union as a whole. Given the magnitude of the challenges, a major overhaul of the French social and economic model seems inevitable. So France is going to go through a massive situation right now. They're playing around with the numbers. I told this. I said, for a long time, I've said France has been playing around with the numbers. I said the French real estate economy. The first thing I mentioned was the French real estate sector is horrendous right now. I've been saying this for a while. I said 1,200 real estate agents have closed down operations in France. The real estate market is completely gone in France. And I've been saying that every country has been playing around with their numbers. I said Germany has also been playing around with their numbers. France has been playing around with their numbers. The US has been playing around with their numbers. I said the US can't go for essentially a recession right now because it's voting season, because it makes Sleepy Joe and Kamala look bad. So they can't go for a recession now because it's voting season. The US economy has to look strengthened. In reality, it isn't. No economy is right now. The world's economy is terrible. Every country. There's not a single country on this planet right now that's doing tip-top conditions. And let's not forget, if the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. So even if there is a country out there that might be doing okay, the moment the American economy sneezes, no longer will they be doing okay, because everybody will be effed. Because the market space will be sliding downhill. Now, also there's high tensions rising with South Korea and North Korea. South Korea flew some drones into North Korea, and the nut job Kim Jong-un has decided to raise tensions with South Korea. Now, none of these scenarios are going to lead into World War III, okay? So World War III is never going to happen. Remember, no profit, no war, okay? If there's ever going to be a profit, there will be a war. So no profit, no war. So World War III goes in a category of no profit, which means no war. So World War III is never going to happen. But countries, doing their own thing is always going to be around. Now, it's also another reason why I've been saying regarding CBDCs that one of the main reasons a lot of centralized banks around the world are also, fast tracking towards a CBDC world, towards a digital world, is because they don't have time. Time is running out. I've been saying this since 2023. 2023, I said a lot of things that will happen in 2024, and they've all happened like domino effects. But what I've also said is the reason why, when people ask me regarding central banks, why don't central banks create their own system? Because there's no point, because it already exists and it's free. If they want to use the XRP ledger, they can to develop their own, stable coins and CBDCs. And also that there's no time. Time is the biggest factor. And, regarding central banks coming out and saying, we're going to be coming out with CBDCs 2030. I said they're lying. And there's two reasons why they've always been lying to you about 2030 CBDCs. It's because, one, they want you to assume you have a lot of time when in reality you don't. And two, they don't have a lot of time either. Their clock is ticking also. The central bank's clocks are also ticking. A lot of countries' economies are not doing too great right now at all. That's another reason why CBDCs are being fast-tracked. A digital world is being fast-tracked, so they can move away from this corrupt and manipulated traditional financial space we have. So they can move away from it. But saying that, it doesn't mean the new digital financial world is going to be excellent either. I mean, if you're positioned correctly, you can make a lot of money. But in the long run, give it I'll give it 20 years in a CBDC world. I'm being generous, by the way. I'll give it 20 years in a CBDC world before governments stop printing too much. I'm being very generous when I say 20 years. 20 years in a CBDC world. After 20 years, governments will start ruining the CBDC space as well by printing too much. Now, what we're going to talk about next is Ripple. Ripple-backed Keyrock teams up with Deutsche Bank to expand FX services. A company that's backed by Ripple is now partnered with Deutsche Bank, an Austrian bank. Now, this particular Austrian bank, and this is why I say everything in the financial sector is coordinated. There's no such thing as coincidence when it involves a lot of money. It's all coordination. A very long time ago, Deutsche Bank partnered with Bitpanda. And they said Bitpanda is the best out there for us to partner up with. Now, a better exchange could be Coinbase. It's a bigger exchange. It could be Binance. It's a bigger exchange. It's more established. It's got more, and so on and so on. More policies, regulations, or whatever. But they chose Bitpanda. Deutsche Bank chose Bitpanda. Why? Because it's Ripple-backed. And now Deutsche Bank has chosen another partner, which is also Ripple-backed. Austrian crypto exchange Bitpanda has joined forces with German largest lender Deutsche Bank to provide real-time payment solutions. The crypto exchange regarding the crypto exchanges, Bitpanda is expanding its partnerships with Deutsche Bank, Germany's largest financial lender, to provide banking solutions for incoming and outgoing transactions for users in Germany. The API-based account solution will provide the Austrian crypto exchange with access to German IBANs, according to the press. And speaking, essentially, was Hendrik, a media spokesperson for Deutsche Bank, noted that the partnership the bank wants to achieve market essentially penetration in completely new areas. Despite the collaboration, the Frankfurt headquartered bank highlighted that it still prefers a cautious approach and is in not a rush to expand the list of partnerships in the crypto industry. Deutsche Bank would not offer essentially other services to every company in the crypto segment. It must be clearly licensed and regulated company that also pursues the highest compliance standards internally. So Deutsche Bank, that's partnered with Bitpanda, now partnered with a new Ripple-backed company, is also stating that they only partner with established organizations that have the correct licensings and offer the services they are looking for. What Ripple-backed? CEO Lucas said that the Deutsche Bank commitment to working with new players in the financial industry continues to make our partnerships possible. And that's Germany in 2022, when the Federal Financial Supervisory Authority, also known as BaFin, granted the crypto exchange with a license, allowing it to offer services in the German market space. So another Ripple-backed company is partnered with a German bank, the same an Austrian bank, the same bank that was also part of Bitpanda. Coincidence or coordinated? I'm going to go with coordination. Now let's go inside the comment section first. Maybe he's taking lessons from Sleepy Joe, Macron, probably. No, Macron is an absolute moron. The leader of France is an absolute moron. He's a big tool. He's ruined the French economy into the ground. That's what France gets for the demonic Olympic charades. Fair enough. Karma, you know. Maybe he's taking lessons from Sleepy Joe, probably. Do you think, since France is being cut off from the African resources, has to do with that crisis? Yes. France is having difficulties with, you know, being still a part of the African, you know, countries. France exploited a lot African countries for years, Congo especially. So Congo was exploited by the French government. Congo was exploited, Kenya was exploited, Namibia was exploited, Nigeria was exploited. A few other African countries in the continent of Africa were exploited by French authorities for years. The French authorities were using their resources and giving them crumbs. The worst part is the crumbs that the government were receiving were never reaching the people either. But yeah, it could have one of the reasons that France's economy is not doing too well either is, yes, it could be because the African nations decided to cut them off, which good for them. They haven't cut them off fully, but they cut them off a lot. That's why they don't have time. CBDC is coming and Ripple is the backbone. Facts. They can build their own chains, but don't have time. Facts. We've also, just to give you a heads up, what I would like to say is, today we got news from the UK that CBDCs 2025, Brazil CBDCs 2025, Russia CBDCs 2025, India CBDCs expansion 2025, United Arab Emirates CBDCs 2025. The amount of countries launching in 2025 regarding CBDCs is a ridiculous amount. And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to stop CBDCs, which is never going to work. So what I will say and still say is position yourselves correctly for a CBDC world, otherwise get left behind. Don't miss out on XRP. To some people that might sound laughable when I say don't miss out on XRP, but it's the reality. Don't miss out on XRP, because with the Bank of International Settlements stating 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs, 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs. And then you look at the list of countries coming up with CBDCs in 2025, and there was one crypto platform with a CBDC platform with multiple CBDC awards, also part of the World Economic Forum and Bank of International Settlements. It's all Ripple and XRP. So CBDCs are coming a lot more sooner, but I saw that coming a long time ago, because I said in 2023 what's going to be happening in 2024. So yeah, position yourself correctly, people. Do not get left behind. And we have reached the endings also of tonight's live. Just want to leave you with that message that more countries are joining the list of 2025 CBDCs. Do not get left behind. And we have reached the endings of tonight's live show. And on tonight's live show, we talked about Ripple, another backed company that's backed by Ripple, partners with the same bank that's also backed by Bitpanda, who's also a Ripple partner. We also talked about tonight's live regarding the French economy. We talked about on tonight's live how could it impact the market space, not too good. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding maximum tensions rising between China and Taiwan and the possibilities and the outcomes of that. We also went through the news topic on tonight's live regarding Brazilian CBDC. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding Bitwise's CEO perspectives on that matter. We also regarding banks entering the crypto space. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding Xi Jinping and Putin regarding de-dollarization of BRICS. We also went through the news topic on tonight's live regarding UK CBDCs coming up 2025. We also went through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding MT Gox refunding everybody in 2025. and is a coordinated movement for 2025. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding the United Arab Emirates Central Bank regulating dirham stablecoins to be happening. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding Tether borrowing money to sanctioned countries, which is not going to be ending very well for Tether. We also went for the news topic on tonight's live regarding Grayscale and their updated altcoin crypto lists. And we also talked about on tonight's live regarding the Fed Governor Christopher Waller's perspective on the market space. So drop a like, drop a follow if you're watching this for the first time ever. CMF members, thank you so much to every single one of you, CMF, for tuning in every single night in these lives. Love you all. Thanks so much to everyone that's been retweeting this live, liking this live, retweeting this live on X, liking this live on X, and putting a comment under the video on X. And thank you so much to everyone that's watching this on YouTube, who's also liked the live as well, and put a comment on X as well. And if you are new and you subscribed for the first time, welcome to the CMF on YouTube. If you subscribed, if you're watching us on X and you followed me on X for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF as well. We also have our own Telegram group, which is completely free. Anybody's more than welcome to join. We also have an X community page as well, which anybody's more than welcome to join. It's called the CMF X community page, and it's completely free. Everything I do is completely free. So this was a CMF live show. I was your host, Crypto Miles, as always, and I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, every single night. Tune in. Got to run. Good stuff, Miles, as usual. I thank you for your knowledge. Sempre. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles. And all CMF, thank you for the news and great live. Let's go. JP, see you tomorrow, brother, sometimes as usual. Good night, brother. Camel, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Shelly, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Peg, thank you, Miles. Peg, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual as well. Good night, Miles. Thank you for all the information. Take care and see you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow, but sometimes as usual. Thanks, Miles, for your time. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Shelly, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Shelly, thank you, Miles. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Miles rocks. Let's go. Happy Pisces. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual as well. Happy Pisces. Scott, Miles, for everything you do for our family group nightly, just think you are free to. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual as well. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Drop a follow, drop a like, drop a retweet. See